Hello you guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, before I go any further with this video, please click the like, the subscribe button, and click the notification bell so you can be updated when Sister Girl posts videos like this. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a video by another transgender YouTuber, and her name is Asive. So she was talking about being Xhosa and transgender and how, how she's experienced that. I put a link to her video in the description below, so please make sure that you watch that. So I remember when I was watching the video, I was so happy to see that, some people have had so many positive experiences with within the Xhosa culture. For me, my experiences of being trans and Xhosa have been very, very difficult. Very difficult in the sense that, even though I was born into a very liberal family, a very open-minded family, my family is still very, very traditional. It's a traditional Black African family, and my mom is actually a traditional healer, an African traditional healer, or a witch doctor, or sangoma, or whatever you want to call it. So my mom very much is a woman of her culture. She's a Xhosa woman, and she's very, very proud of that. When I was growing up, it became very evident that my parents didn't understand what I was going through. They didn't understand it, and it didn't make sense to them because they had no frame of reference. In Black African culture, it's very black and white. It's very, very black and white, and everybody fits into these parameters. Now, my mom had an understanding, or some understanding, of homosexuality and things like that, but she didn't understand what I was dealing with. And no one around me understood what I was dealing with. So from the time I was very, very young, I had these feelings of like isolation and rejection. And like, it's very easy to feel isolated and rejected in these types of communities because the Xhosa culture, like a lot of other African cultures, has this tribe mentality, and there's almost this belief within the Xhosa community that you need to behave the way everybody else behaves, and you need to believe what everybody else believes, and if you don't, something is wrong with you. This was the message that I got. Obviously, I wasn't taught that, it was possible for me to transition. In fact, I was taught that wanting to transition or being gay or lesbian or anything of the sort was not only an abomination, but it was a betrayal. I think that was the loudest message that I got, that I was somehow betraying the culture and betraying my people, and I was being un-African and un-Black and all of these things. Look, I was always a very stubborn kid, and I remember being about 8 or 9 or 10 years old and thinking to myself, well, if you don't accept me, I don't need you to accept me. If you don't embrace me, I don't need you to embrace me. I'm going to learn how to accept myself. So I think from the time I was 10 years old, I had this attitude almost. I had this attitude towards the Xhosa culture and Xhosa people. I felt like they were rejecting me. I felt like they were rejecting me. I felt that they had alienated me, and they were trying to force me to be something that I wasn't. And of course, what do you do in that situation? You push right back. You push right back, and that's what I did. That's what I did for most of my my adolescence, most of my teenage years, I just pushed back because I felt like I wasn't wanted in that community. Now, during that stage when I was trying to figure out who I was and what I was, I learned a very valuable lesson. You don't need the greater community to accept you. The greater community doesn't have to accept you. You know what I mean? When you accept yourself, you become beautiful. When you accept yourself and you embrace yourself, suddenly, almost miraculously, other people around you start to become more accepting and more embracing of who you are. Look, when I was a child, I acted as a child and I thought as a child. And when I felt rejected by the Xhosa community, as many people do, I felt that I should reject them and push away from them and just do my own fucking thing. But once I grew up and became an adult and thought as an adult and behaved like an adult, I realized that you don't have to live your life always wanting to push back. You don't always have to live your life always wanting to fight people. And when you learn to accept yourself and embrace yourself, you find that other people within the community start to become more open to the idea of who you are and what you are. I never thought or imagined that my greatest allies or my greatest support would come from the very same culture that I tried to reject as a child. And they did. Like, I know it's hard to be black. It's hard to be black. It's hard to be trans. And it's hard to be African. And all of these three things coming together at you in one go can seem overwhelming. But just for one moment, I want you to put that all out of your head. Just put it all out of your head. The culture you were born into, it doesn't matter. The language group you were born into doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is that you learn to understand yourself and you learn to accept yourself. Once you start getting comfortable with you and who you are, honey, the world, the universe, the entire community will start to correspond to the nature of your song. You know what I mean? And yeah, look, there are always going to be people who don't like you, or people who don't accept you, or people who think that you're un-African or you're not black. But once you get really comfortable with yourself, it's not going to mean a damn thing. So now, at this age that I am, a whole 30-year-old, I can say that I look at myself and I see a beautiful, black, Xhosa, transgender woman. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. I know who I am and I know where I come from. And I also know that who I am, or rather, where I come from, doesn't have to define who I am. Wish you all the best in your journey. Love, peace, and many blessings.